Welcome everybody. We have a mentoring service, and I've mentored over 1,100 people through an online site called Unbreakable Lessons. And the three people today that are with us are people that are completing the first lesson of the 13 lessons. And I want to describe how we got to this place. The lessons themselves are what I call 13 lessons that everybody should do in their life that actually impact every area of their life. And I don't say that tongue in cheek. I say that because I've seen over 1,100 people be impacted by each lesson. And the first lesson has been the hardest for people to get through. And I wanted to have a real frank, honest discussion with the three that are on today as they complete that training. But to begin with, the reason why the three are here is I'm kind of a wolf where I go searching for people.
Kind of?
I'm a wolf or a predator or somebody scary like that. I, hunt for people who do things that are different and unique that actually inspire me. And one of those hunt days, I was searching the internet and I saw Jody, who's on today. She was doing something that actually impressed me, and I was like, that's impressive. So I reached out to her, and over a couple discussions, we got to this place right now. And she runs, I'll let her describe what she does. I'll flub it up. But it was so impressive to see her do something physically with her body that I still can't do, Jody, so don't make fun of me. So I would like, to begin with you guys introducing yourselves as everybody's watching this, and we'll start from there.
All right. My name is Jody. I am CEO of Kettlebell Kickboxing Canada, and I have the great pleasure of bringing two of my KBI Level 1 trainers with me today, Sean and Elizabeth. Okay, Sean, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Sean Behill. I'm a software developer and, as Jody said, a KBI Level 1 Kettlebell Kickboxing trainer. I train for Jody in her main gym when it's not shut down with the rest of the world, and I work during the day for a telephone company here in the city.
Do you have telephones up in Canada? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I had to say that.
Hi, my name's Liz, and I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm a KBI Level 1 trainer, and I'm also a fitness trainer and teach other fitness classes as well.
Well, thank you guys for being here, and I want Jody to describe what you're doing online. And I didn't ask you to, I didn't prep this, but what you're doing online is very interesting and exciting because you're relentless. And you're what I call an authentic person doing what they're going to do in spite of whatever is there. And so, as best you can, describe what your ideas are that you're trying to put out online and why you're doing it.
First of all, thank you for having us on also. So for our online, I've actually had online for probably, since I started, because I started it with the idea because I was from a small community. I wanted to get, be able to reach, because I grew up in a small community, I knew what I had access to when I was there. So I built it when we launched back in October 2017. But now it's, I probably didn't focus on it as much as I did at the time. So it turned out to be a really big benefit for me because as everyone kind of scrambled to figure out how to put out content online, I had that platform already. And actually at Christmas time, we'd started streaming our classes live. So once a week we'd set up the camera and I would just teach to the class, and then that class would be streamed live, and then it sits on the platform recorded, so when people have time they can go in and do it. So So that's what we're doing online now. And then we have some exciting things coming up with our trainers coming online. So yeah, but it's basically our kettlebell, like if you were to come join me in a class here in Saskatchewan, our live class will look exactly the same.
The other part of it is more interesting. The stuff that you post is legit, and I don't think you understand how important it is of the simple things that you're doing online that actually draw in people like Joe and I. And I don't mind stumbling through this with you. And to me, it was remarkable to see a woman. She's very fit as well, to do something so vulnerable online. And to me, that's impressive, as opposed to, the normal gym workout or somebody filming, like I film myself running, and I'm incredibly bored when I do that. So what I saw Jody do is she was trying to, can you describe what you did with that shoe? And to me, it's remarkable, and maybe I'm overdoing it, but it really still to this day is inspiring.
The shoe. So I often get people to send me clips of things and they're like, you should try this. So the shoe was a shoe challenge, and you have to put the shoe on the sole of your foot, and you have to maneuver yourself from your back onto your stomach and then back around. So when you do it over and over to try to figure out how to, manipulate your body, your hip movements to successfully keep that shoe in place. So it's definitely a challenge, and especially when if you're not used to those motions, and when you watch it, like I would do it and I would watch myself and I'd be like, okay. So for me, it was like I had to remind myself to lift my knee up because I knew that it would hold the shoe a little bit, but just different things like that. But I think it comes down to, for me, what it is like, you're connecting your mind and your body. Like you can go to the gym and you can do a bicep curl and just stand there and do a bicep curl. But when you start having to actually connect your brain to the motions, I just think it's just one of the most incredible things about our actually kettlebell kickboxing, because you're always connecting those two.
That's why I was telling you about her. So what Joe and I are really committed to is people in doing something that is very unique, and we call it the gap. You're trying to do something that you can't do, and you're stumbling through it. And that's, to me, the most remarkable space for people. And that represents what Joe and I are trying to bring forward, is somebody, I don't know if it sounds well, somebody that's in the gap of their life, struggling. And I had talked to Joe about this, before, y'all started to do the training. And so we reached out literally because it represents who Joe and I are, is to help people solve the gap. And so in reaching out to Jody, it led to this conversation, is I would love to show you another thing, which was the first lesson of the Unbreakable Lessons, is how to honor your word. Some people call it discipline. I don't call it discipline because it just doesn't represent that. The process of honoring your word helps everybody solve the initial gap of any place that they are in their life. And that now we're in week 3, and it takes 3 weeks to actually do it. And y'all are in week 3. And so I'll start with you, Jody. Can you tell what you've been doing this week and the excuses that you've overcome? So the process is to do 3 things in the morning and 3 things at night. It's push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, which is easy.
Yeah.
And then begin to expose yourself to the reasons that come up for you that stop you from doing simple things, which is the real it's the orifice of the training. If you can understand why you excuse yourself from your own greatness by doing simple things over time, you'll win big battles. So this week is the 3rd week, which is, I think it's 30, 30, and 30. But I'm really excited to hear what your excuses were this week.
Well, my biggest excuse was probably at night after I was done teaching for 2 hours. So teaching 2 hours in front of a classroom of people has been so different from teaching 2 hours in front of a camera when you got to keep your energy up because you pull so much energy, or I pull so much energy from the people around me when I teach. So doing that and then having to do those 3 simple things at the end was my most challenging because I was like tired, like legitly tired. But I always, when I really thought to this through, because I'm like, I almost think my excuses, I have almost my internal dialogue. I'm like, I think, oh my gosh, I'm like, do I have a split personality internal dialogue? Because there's this one thing that pops up and it's like, oh God, like I'm so tired. Do I have to do this because I'm tired? And then the other internal dialogue for me always is like, okay, suck it up, just do it and get it done. So I'm like, that's kind of where I would go back and forth between the two. So.
What were the other reasons that have happened over the 3 weeks? And so this has been a weekly coaching call between the 4 of us. And I will expose to everybody listening and watching, there are 4 main reasons why people fail. And here they are. It's the $1 million thing. And maybe we should charge for this next time, Joe.
Maybe.
But so here are the 4 reasons. And I can tell you, it just doesn't help to know it. You got to experience them. And what Jody initially said was pain or discomfort is a big reason why people fail.
Which is where I'm tired comes from.
Yeah, I'm tired, this hurts, whatever. So, and the other reason that is a massive reason for failure, it's an excuse. And really what an excuse is you excuse yourself from greatness. That's what an excuse is also what Jody was alluding to. And it sounds like this in your head. This is stupid. So you've made a commitment to doing something. And eventually you're going to say, this is dumb, this is stupid, doesn't make any sense. That excuse has killed more great endeavors
100%.
than anything.
That was mine.
Yeah.
That was mine. That was the 18th hour on the 24-hour walk. This is stupid.
Yeah.
This is absolutely stupid.
Yeah, it makes no sense. God, why are we doing this? Yeah.
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 That's it.
Yeah.
And that part was so simple but so profound for me because I could go back through my life and go, yep, that's where you excused yourself from greatness here with the simple thing of that. This is stupid. This is where you excused yourself here. This is where you excused yourself here. And Jody, all of us are schizophrenic with dual personalities. In fact, I looked at Tom one day and I was like, I am fairly certain that that part of the Bible where in the New Testament where it says, you know, where the guy says, where Jesus is like casting out a demon or something. And the guy looks at him and goes, we are legion. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's me. Mm-hmm. That's me. There's a bunch of me inside here running around my own head. And it contradicts each other all the time. And so this lesson for me was probably the most vital lesson, period, in honoring my word. Because those excuses, really, it gives you nothing but a real tight grip on an empty sack. That's what an excuse is. Yeah. And the honoring your word part, it came full circle when we were all sitting, when we sat down or when we all met up on the 24-hour walk. It came full circle for me because as we were talking about that and I was hearing this excuse in my head and I had tracked it to all these different failures and places where I had quit. Mm-hmm. I had stopped and I let that excuse win. And you told the story about in SEAL training about how you always would remove the chances of finishing or winning. Mm-hmm. Because the lesson there was they said they were going to do it. Do they take a step forward when there's no option of success? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do they continue to take that step forward? And then you went further to say there wasn't a single mission that you went on that you didn't run out of food, water, ammunition, or any chance of survival or success, but you're sitting here today. Yeah. Yeah. And so you came face to face to that in a real life or death situation, right? Real, like death or death situation is how you could look at it. And so that was probably the most impactful thing to me that I ever learned, because I was addicted to winning. Mm-hmm. If I didn't see where others would look at me and their opinion of me would be that I had won in that situation, if I was alone, mm-hmm. I would make that, this is stupid, and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so the simple act of, well, hell, I said I would do it. So do you take another step forward then? Yep. Right? When when winning's off the table, when success is off the table, who are you then? And that was the most profound for me.
Yep. And and the funny thing is Jody's talking about her, what seems to be a benign excuse, it's really transcendent because it shows up everywhere. And so to complete those four, the third excuse is a weird one. It's called I forgot. Oh, dude, I forgot. So what, you didn't go get the $1 million check? Dude, I forgot. I forgot to fill in the blank that got me, this, like everybody's faced right now trying to get this payment protection, project, whatever it is, through the government, or at least down here. You can submit something to the government. Everybody's going to forget to do it. They're going to forget to get money they're going to forget. Can you imagine all the things in life that you try to do it and you forget to do the simple fill in the blank to get money? And there's going to be there'll be 1 million people who forgot. And that excuse will kill a lot of people. They'll just forget. The fourth excuse is really believable. And all four of these excuses I call subtle, seductive, and believable. The fourth one is, I don't have support, Joe. That's what it sounds like. Not with Joe, but my wife doesn't support me, my friends don't support me. And that usually excuses you, when you hear it, from doing a simple thing that will make you succeed. Even though those weren't your excuses, they may be the other two's. But those four excuses will detonate your success. It's not that you need to be complicated in what you do. It's eventually you'll attrit yourself by agreeing with your excuse instead of doing the thing that you said to do. Yep. And during this 21 days, I know that you've experienced that in your own way. And so Jody, were you able to do it for 21 days, or did you break them?
Well, remember, because I had that appointment, and I think about that conversation we had all the time, because I went into the hospital for that procedure. And I sat with that because I did it in the morning, and I trained in the morning because I knew that I'd probably not feel well enough, and I didn't. But I sat with that because I had to start over again, right? Right, yeah. Because I missed that night. But I'm like, okay, yeah, I totally could have did it. I'm like, if I had even had to break it up one an hour with the three of them and just do it like that. So like an excuse, but but it is an excuse, right? Could have did it. Just would have taken me probably
the world seems to happen and really
6 to 8 hours.
The world seems to happen like this coronavirus or whatever we're calling it here in the world. Look at all the excuses that people now believe, and they're not doing the simple things in their life.
100%.
I'm locked down. I can't go to work. And so Joe and I decided, well, we're going to figure out how to do work anyway. So it's not complicated. It's now another set of simple things. And how bad do you want success? And at any level, if you understand the dynamic of this honoring your word 21-day assignment, if you understand it in its simplest form, you can apply it in a very complex form.
Absolutely.
And you got to do it for 21 days. And so
thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think about that with everybody doing their fitness. Like everyone's like, work out at home. And I'm like, come on, you guys, you have time. And everybody's excuse for, I don't have time. I'm like, well, now you are at home. You take away your travel time that's used to travel every day, right? Yep. I'm like, if that's only 10 minutes, then just do 10 minutes of, getting up and down off the ground, right?
Yeah, and it's funny when you now that you see it this way, Jody, isn't it funny that what really prevents other people and yourself from being not only successful, but wildly successful? Gosh, I've excused myself. Oh, it's somebody else's fault. The coronavirus. So I'm going to, eat puffballs and sit in front of my TV and do nothing.
Yeah.
Going back to your original commitment, most people just drop their original commitment.
Yep.
And it's kind of a sad state of affairs. But
I've got a question for Jody. So probably on that night, you had that, you committed and did it that morning. You had the procedure, medical procedure, didn't feel good, tired, all the stuff, and didn't do it that night. The voice in your head was telling you it's okay. Like no one would do it. I mean, that you can start over, and that's legit. You had a legitimate procedure. You feel awful, and whatever. The minute that you decided to not do it, did that same voice then beat you up for it? And like,
well, yeah, like I did it. I started again right up the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
But the other voice inside my head also said that I need to take care, right? Because I always get people like my family are like, you just need to take, because I asked the doctor that did I was like, you know what I do for a living? And she's like, yes, Jody, I know. And I'm like, tell me how many hours do I actually have to rest? And she's like, please give me 24 hours. That's all I ask. So I was like, okay. So I had to commit, in a sense, I had to commit to what she wanted me to do for my health, right? So, but yeah, I did. I beat myself. And even looking back at it now, and I'm like, well, maybe I could have done, throughout the day. But
this, it's probably a better lesson than just having completed it without any turmoil. That, it's, what Joe and I say is, how bad do you want things? There's going to be a time, Joe experiences it every day, where you're like, gosh dang it, this is going to do damage, or it's not going to work out. And one of my stories is an interesting story where probably 4 months into a combat deployment, and one of my I had to have this guy out in the field with us because he controlled all of our aircraft that were coming in to support us. And he had 103 fever. And I said, hey, we're at an impasse now. If you don't come, we can't go on the mission. We can go, but the likelihood that the rest of us will be able to pick up your slack is pretty slim. But the mission is critical. So what do we, like I was at forcing somebody to do something, you can get 5 minutes out of them and then they don't do it very well. And he looked at me because he was very committed to the end, not him dying. He goes, I don't want to die, but if I don't go, you guys are going to die. So I said, all you have to do is be alert for 8 hours. And then when we get target secure, you can sleep. So he walked in for 5 miles with us, 120 degree temperature outside, and he had 103 temperature. And he was on his last leg. We finally secured the target. And he had been controlling 4 or 5 aircraft the entire time, which is very complicated. It's how bad you want to be there. And he could have excused himself. And I would have said, you know what, life over limb, it's better that you stay here. And it makes a huge difference when you understand that its implications are profound, which I'm very interested how I'm glad that you had a setback, because setbacks are where you learn everything.
Yeah, that's how you learn.
If it had been perfect, you'd be like, well, this was easy. I didn't get anything from it, but yeah.
Do you know I find really interesting, just for a second, I used to, when I had clients come to me or they'd approach me or they'd send me a message, they're like, I can't train with you because you would kick my butt and I just wouldn't make it. And I used to be like, my personality used to be like, oh no, come on, you can do it. And I was always this kind of almost this big cheerleader. I'd try, but they'd never come because all the cheerleading in the world I could do is not going to get them there, right? Mm-hmm. And then I met Iva, who I talk about all the time, and she trains with me. And she's 72, drives an hour and a half to train with me and drives an hour and a half home for 60 minutes. And she just has overcome so many things. And she, like, when I met her, she couldn't do a jumping jack. And now she does burpees. And I always like, I'll look at her and I'm like, we'll modify this in a little bit. And she's like, no, I'm just going to do it. So when I have people say to me now, they're like, I can't train with you. I realistically will look at them and say, well, no, if you've already decided that in your head and you're saying it to me, you probably won't.
Yeah.
Because you've made that decision. But I'm telling you, if you're determined, you can do anything. Yeah. And then when Iva trains with me, I'm always using her. I'm like, because look at this, right?
Yeah. And you know, she's correct. The she that she was being couldn't train with you. She had to change it. Yeah. You had to change Absolutely. That, what I call internally, you have to change yourself internally to do anything profound. And she was correct. She should have said, the person that I'm being is not adequate. Yes, you're right. It's not adequate. That's why you're going to come train with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the other lady's name?
Liz.
Yeah. Liz, what? I have some of the same questions for you. So what's happened, and what excuses have come up for you, and what's the journey been like for you over the last couple of weeks?
Well, I found when I first started was like, I've got some issues with a shoulder or an Achilles tendon, whatever, right? I still push through in my workouts, but I was feeling like the mornings were really rough, trying to get up and just move. And so I guess we could say that I was thinking, sort of struggling with the pain. And then I had that double sort of thing like Jody, and then I would waver back and forth, and it's like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And but then I would be the same. I'd say, well, suck it up. It's only so many reps. Let's get it done. And I always felt better after I did it. And so those were probably my two main sort of internal excuses that I wrestled with through the 3 weeks. And yeah, it's kind of funny, right? And also too, I struggle with, if I can't do it perfectly, why do it? And you know, because I'm a fitness trainer and I think I have to do everything absolutely perfectly. But I realized if I modified some of the things when I was really feeling that shoulder that day, and did it 1 rep at a time, like Thom suggested, right? You get through that. And I learned that, you know, I think I use pain as an excuse in a lot of things. And so now I'm realizing, hey, well, you know, you can push past that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you know, actually, and you use perfection as an excuse to not be awesome. It's a human thing that people don't understand. Perfection is the enemy of greatness. It is. I can't think of a freaking thing I do perfectly. I don't even shoot perfectly. Like when I was in my heyday of shooting, everybody'd say, hey, you're a really good shot. Internally, I'm like, man, my first shot sucks. I can't make the first shot, but I can make the second shot really good. And the numbers kind of speak for themselves. If I had to make my first shot perfect, I guarantee it wasn't going to be good. So I'm just going to do the best I can on the first one and make the second one even better. Maybe the third one, if I'm still alive, I'll make that one even better. And taking that into training people, not only physically for you guys and, you know, for Jody, don't ever train for perfection. Train for one more graduated step at getting better. And then, you know, in training, you know, business clients, business wants perfection at the cost of greatness. It's horrible to see it. Like the greatest salesman is the one who's willing to fail 1,000 times. Yep. Like I'm going to get 1,000 no's just to get one yes. That person who figures that out can sell salt water to the ocean. But most people are like, well, I'm not really good at it. Like Joe and I struggle at everything. Like we're struggling here at trying to get everything working today. but it doesn't matter. We get 1 inch closer to making it better, and it gets better every single time. That is, as I'm listening to what you said, the key to what you just went through is probably the $1 million value added is, what if you gave up the excuse of perfection? What would you do? That was actually a question. I mean, what would you do if you didn't have to be perfect?
Ooh. Well, there's probably a lot of things.
Isn't that interesting? There's so many things that are now on the table. Gosh, I would do that. Well, then do that. Isn't it crazy how your mind just opened up and what became available is what you'd killed off? Well, I'm not good at it, so I can't do it perfect, so I'm not going to do it. I haven't done a perfect ultra marathon ever. Like I can't even, now I'm so old, I go out on a run. I've never had a good run in 2 years. Something goes wrong every run. This hurts, that hurts, sick, upset, didn't bring enough water. Oh God. But every time I have one of those, avoiding perfection things, and I do it anyway, I get better. And it's a massive, that was unanticipated. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
That was one of mine for sure. I used to get so anxious and frustrated when it wasn't perfect, when it didn't play off like I had played it out in my mind. I would get bent out of shape. And how many opportunities did I lose in that process? How many chances to go from who I was to who I wanted to be? In between that is the gap. And how many chances did I lose to become who I wanted to be? Because it's always uncomfortable in that gap, right? How many times did I lose it and just stay who I was and just get along, just go along to get along?
Just stay on the flat.
Oh man, Sean, what about you, man?
As the rest of the discussion goes on, I'm hearing lots of stuff I realized that I didn't realize I was using as an excuse and just kind of bypassed. The perfection one right off the bat, it didn't even click in when I first started the challenge. I was, okay, perfect push-ups, everything doing it right. And there's a point I said, okay, as these go on, I'm never going to maintain this perfectly. So I let it go a bit. And I didn't even realize that in my head now, but now that it's brought up here, it's like, oh, yeah, I was at the start thinking I had to do this all perfect, and I just happened to let it slide. I think, pretty much all of the excuses that were there. Like I forgot, there were nights I was lying in bed and I'm like, oh, I forgot to do it. And then there was that whole battle of, well, it's nice and warm and comfy under the blankets here, but no, I got to get out.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get out and do this. The why the hell am I doing this? Definitely hit that one.
Yep.
I had increased the numbers to make it a physical challenge for myself as well, which I know isn't the whole point of the challenge. And I found myself questioning that halfway through. I was, why am I doing extras when no one else is? But I realized that that's what I committed myself to. So I stuck with those extra numbers throughout the whole thing. Probably one of the biggest things I found was this past week, that something I didn't really realize I was doing until I was actually just thinking about it this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, but I got this real love connection with my snooze button. Every morning, I got my alarm set so I can snooze and lay there for a couple minutes. And getting into this last week of the challenge was, I have to set my alarm earlier to get up and do it. And I found that
snooze more.
I don't hit my snooze button anymore.
Okay.
I'm usually up before my alarm and getting out of bed to do the challenge. So it's the perfect analogy. Analogy is not even an analogy. A snooze button is procrastination. And it's something I know I do in life all the time.
Practice on uncommitted.
So this is going to be a huge step forward to not procrastinating, the million projects I have going on around the house, stuff that I put off doing at work. Like there's the huge breakthrough I made now with just not hitting my snooze button that I know I can apply everywhere.
You bring up an interesting point. There's a group of people that self-sabotage by making things more difficult than they need to be. And this oftentimes gets exposed during the 21 day, not as much as I would have hoped it to be, but you just exposed a group of people like you, like me, like if it's easy, I'm gonna double down and make it hard just to prove that I can do it better than somebody else. That way of living is not sustainable. When the simpler way of living, you would have gotten there quicker had you just done the simple things that you promised to do. Like there's a time to double down in life, but it's probably never. You know what I mean? There could be a time where you have to gut it up and do more. But usually, if you just honor your word and do the simple things you've promised to do, the outcome will happen quicker than to prove yourself better or stronger. Because once you start doing that, like you said, you get into that other internal conversation with the angel and demon on your shoulder, is why am I doing more than anybody else? And then you become bitter. And then you were cussing me or Jody, or you're proving that you could do it better than Jody, or whatever the case is. And the outcome of that is never like a positive outcome, as opposed to the one that comes in and does exactly what they say. And then they're available to help other people do exactly what they say. Yep. And that is a whole different way of living. And you'll see rapid improvement by just making an agreement and keeping it, than looking to see what everybody else is doing and doubling down. That's always a bitter relationship that you have with yourself and other people, is when you overprove yourself. And it normally drives people away when you always prove yourself to be, the biggest dude in the kitchen, so to speak. That was a paradox. Guys in kitchens, whatever.
Yeah,
I get kicked out of my kitchen. But yeah, that was awesome. And
that's funny. He probably would have realized on the snooze part, he would have realized that earlier, because, when I set an alarm still on my phone to get up at a certain time, but when I implemented the wake up, get up, I automatically started waking up before the alarm, and I would get up and do what I had committed to do. And I was excited to do it. Mm-hmm. When I was comparing myself to others and what they do or don't do, or how they saw what I did, then that's when you wake up and you're like, God, yep. Snooze.
Yep, every time.
Because it's almost like you wake up in conflict.
Yeah.
And so it's a different scenario because everybody's journey is different. I'm not in competition with Jody. I'm in competition with the best and worst version of me, right? And I have the things that I'm committed to. And so I can cheer her on. I can cheer Sean on. I can cheer Liz on, and I can applaud the things you're doing, but I've stopped comparing what I'm doing to what you're doing, because I know who I want to be, and I know the difficulty I have to get into in the gap to make it just hard enough to change the me to be who I want to be as I achieve the different things along the way. It's never about the achievement. If you've had any success in anything, you set a weight goal, Sean, or you set a lifting goal or a physical goal, and you work your guts out to get there. Yeah, you got there, but did you feel any different? No, I've set money goals that pay my house off or set these goals. And when I walk into that paid for house or that new car, I'm like, damn, I feel just like I felt yesterday. Because it's never about the achievement, it's about becoming who you want to be. And that's always a better version of you than yesterday, than today. And when we're on our individual journeys like that, that's when we come alive.
Yep.
And I've always said, man, the world doesn't need more fitness instructors. The world needs more people to come alive,
Yep.
right? And to love life and to live. And the world doesn't need another insurance guy like me. It doesn't need, it doesn't need it. It needs people to come alive and get on that journey of becoming the best versions of ourselves.
That's what and I want to acknowledge you, Jody, because that's, watching you be you actually makes me be me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, shit, if she could do that. Because, me being limber, was a conversation that I said, back in the day, back when I could do yoga. And then watching you do that literally was transformative because you were doing you. And I full acknowledgement of the impact that you have on other people, which was the immediate draw for Joe and I to engage you was, here's somebody that represents what we're talking about. And join Jody and find another level to your own shenanigans that you can do incredible things, not to compete with Jody, but to be the better version of yourself.
That's right.
Daily. And it can exist, one, in a physical space and transcend to other spaces when you do that.
That's right.
Yep.
And she was touching on it in the beginning, that mind-body connection. Some people let their mind go and they do their physical activity, or some people, do their personal growth and listen to a book or read, and they let their physical go over here. But that mind-body connection is powerful.
Yep.
That's when we get in lockstep with becoming the best version of ourselves. So I applaud you for that. And Thom, somebody on the live just asked, they want to know what the challenge is that the people are doing. So if you want to explain that and how people have access to that through the SDG group or SDG team.
Yeah, so Joe and I we're beginning to culminate a bigger group of people together, and then we're going to go live, but you can sign up through solvingthegap.com. And a part of that is you get access to the 13 Unbreakable Lessons. And we take everybody that's in the Solving the Gap team through each lesson and a myriad of other, leadership and business and, health related lessons. And we help mentor and guide people through that. So if you sign up through solvingthegap.com and that'll give you the access to all those lessons that, that we're talking about here. And we get to it. And we do it with you all at the same time. So I don't know if you three knew that I was doing the 21 days with you as well. And so, if you came on late, what we're talking about now is lesson 1. It's a 21-day, and by the way, it takes 21 days to learn anything new. And if you've never heard that before, you hear it now. Anytime you're going to try something, you got to do it for 21 days. Because in the experience of doing something for 21 days, you actually ingrain it into your system by defeating the terrible, terrible thing I call internal dialogue. And your excuses will beat you if you don't learn to overcome them. So in 21 days, it takes 21 days to overcome your excuses or your inertia or whatever it is. And go back, and if you're late to the game, go back and see what we were talking about. And they have been doing this for 21 days, and Jody's doing it for a little bit longer because she had to restart. But what the miracle that happens is you begin to see what true honoring your word actually looks like in your life, and you can accomplish, I say anything, because my clients in the past 6 years, I've taken many from what I, and affectionately say this, from couch potato to ultra marathon runner with broken knees and knee replacements. And I've been teaching people, mentoring people how to be fit as a mindset first.
Yep.
And then doing the fitness related things. And it's a miracle for me to witness. That's why I keep doing it. So the lessons are online through solvingthegap.com.
And you know what's crazy is with Jody, I honor her for talking about having to start over.
Yeah.
Because when you're leading an organization, you don't want them, oh, if they finish and I didn't finish, I had to start over. That vulnerability to be able to tell people that creates a whole nother, because I lead our organization. And when I've fallen down on something, I don't want them to see that. I don't want, and that type of vulnerability is beautiful leadership. There is so much power in vulnerability and talking about that and sharing that. And then that's why I asked her, did she beat herself up, right? Mm-hmm. Because I did that so much. I was so hard on myself. There's nobody. Somebody could dress me up, dress me down, beat me up, and they couldn't even come close to how hard I am on myself. And so what I had to learn through that process was forgive myself quickly. Forgive myself quickly. And I call it hugging the cactus, right? Because that internal dialogue would be wearing me out, right? And I would be in a state of chaos, which produces zero activity at that point. And what I would do is I had to get comfortable going, oh man, I love you anyway. It's okay. Yeah, that craziness on the inside of you, hey, it's the human condition. Literally, if things are going too easy and too great, you're not becoming who you want to be. And so you will literally self-sabotage, like Tom's talking about, just to create issues. Yeah. Because you're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or headed to a storm in life. That's the human condition. Yeah. That's the great thing about life, is that issues and problems are there. And you'll create them if you don't have them. That's why you have to put things in place that are just difficult enough, just painful enough, just frustrating enough to get you to who you want to be next and to become a better version of yourself. But you forgive yourself along the way. That's why we have these frank conversations, and we can look at you and go, that's the excuse you're using. Hell, we're not throwing stones. I mean, the only reason we can recognize them is because we invented them.
I'm a master of them.
Yeah. So it's that's a beautiful thing, though. But I wanted to take a second and honor you for that, because being vulnerable in front of people, that's powerful. Letting people know, hey, I fell down on this one, but I forgave myself quick, and I'm back on the horse and moving, doing the simple things, right?
Yeah. Was there anything else on any other questions? No. So did either of you or all of you, did you have anything else that you wanted to benefit the group and the 30,000 people that are watching you right now? Don't be shy. Anything else you want to say?
I think if I could, go ahead, Sean.
Liz and I had a brief conversation this morning, and what's interesting is you said it takes 21 days to learn something. That's now kind of set in our mind. So technically, our 21 days ended last night, yet we both still did the challenge this morning. Mm-hmm. It's something we're continuing on. So it's now not just learned, it's a habit, and it's kind of ingrained. So that's a fantastic thing, because it's not a bad thing to be getting up and doing this or doing this before bed every night. So, it's not only learned, it's now a good way to develop a habit.
That was, I should have expressed it that way. It takes 21 days to reset a habit or to set a habit. And then it's hard to not do it. And what you just said is a more eloquent way of saying that. Once you've done something for 21 days, good or bad, it's hard to not do it on day 22. And to overcome a bad habit, it takes 21 days to reset a bad habit. And that phenomenon, I wish I'd have come up with it. It's the 3-week or 21-day phenomenon, is do something for 21 days, and then decide if you're going to continue. By natural occurrence, if it's done well, it will continue by itself. And I don't decide good or bad for 21 days. Like like Joe and I are on a project. We're 7 days in, and we're going to do it for another 14, and then make are we going to turn left or right? Or are we going to adjust it? don't do anything different for 21 days, because like y'all were experiencing, the first week it's insignificant, and week 2 it's very significant, and then to make it through week 3 you have to be pretty tough, and then all of a sudden day 22 it's common.
Yep.
And that is I'm glad you brought that up. I always forget to mention that.
Yeah, and the habit thing, I love talking about habits because I am more and more convinced at where I am at life, what I'm seeing, the people that I work with, that every single human being, of which we all are a part of that deal, that we are slaves to our habits. We're slaves to our good habits. We're slaves to our bad habits. And once we acknowledge that every single one of us, we have the same 24 hours in a day, and we are slaves to whatever habits exist today, then why not be a slave to good habits? Mm-hmm. If I am destined for slavery and I have control of who my master is, then why not develop the good habits and become very aware of the ones that are life-stealing and the ones that are success-stealing and the ones that are frankly soul-sucking, right? And self-harm. I mean, goodness.
Yeah. This is a very not easy. It's not easy to create a 21-day phenomenon.
Yep.
And you can shift a bad situation in 21 days. You can do it. But you got to destroy your demons or your excuses in 21 days, because they are really ripe when it's a habit. Like if y'all weren't fit at all, this would have been a whole different conversation. If you aren't fit, you have a habit of not being fit. And just because most of my clients are not inherently fit, for some reason.
No, we got money.
When you own a business, all of a sudden fitness ain't that important. But so they are the 21-day honoring your word assignment to a person who's not fit is profound.
Yep.
The excuses are really believable, and I hear I can't do it. It's really I'm going to break my shoulder, and or I have back injury, and all that stuff that you probably hear all the time, Jody. And well, okay, do it differently, but do it. Find a way to honor your word. And by the 22nd day, like you said, Sean, they're like, man, this stuff's easy. I'm going to keep doing it. Well, day 15, I thought you were going to die. What happened? So you overcome your reasons and your excuses to not be the person that you want to be. And lesson 1 is legit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a legit way to execute.
Once you get people understanding that 21-day phenomenon, understanding their own excuses, and doing something simple like the 10, 20, 30 squats, sit-ups, push-ups, all that. Yeah. Once you get them understanding that and they go through this journey, it opens them up to their true internal dialogue and what sabotages them. And that was eye-opening for me. That I would go through these periods of time where whether it was in business and I did all these things right and made a lot of money, or in fitness where I did all these things right and got in unbelievable shape, but I never accessed that true belief in my true values of the I ams. Mm-hmm. And so I have people that I coach and they go, well, I'm gonna lose 40 pounds this month and I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, when's the last time you did a workout? Mm-hmm. Like, do you got exercise shoes? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe we should not lose 40 pounds this month. Maybe we should change something simple, like buy you a pair of exercise shoes and a pair of jogging pants and put them by the front door. Don't even put them on. Just put them by the front door every day. You know what I'm saying? Like let's start easy. Let's start simple and move into this thing. Because the ultimate goal is to get to your I am statements, because my I am statement was I am fat. And until I changed it to I am fit, I would always sabotage my success and become fat again or become unhealthy or whatever it was, right? Yep. So you're on an incredible journey. and we're just getting warmed up.
Well, thank you all for coming on and the questions that we got to and did not get to. And we'll attempt to get to them offline after this. And thank you all. Thank you, Jody, for putting this together, and Sean and Liz. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for
Keep
having
crushing
us.
it.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep. Look forward to seeing you. And did you get the word in September? We're moving into September. So Sean wants
Yeah,
to do
I saw
the
that September 12th, 13th, and
Oh,
got it
good.
marked on my calendar already.
Yeah. Do I have to do that one?
No, what? See the excuses, Jody.
You
Already.
do now after you asked that.
So yeah, when Joe brought his whole crew, Sean, and it was scary to witness because up until that point in time, every time we had a 24-hour event, 4 or 5 people would quit at 12 hours. And when Joe brought his crew, like his C-suite level crew, I was hesitant to allow it to happen because people quit on themselves. If an organization sees their boss quit or their top salesperson quit, what would happen internally, I was very concerned with. Because, Joe will acknowledge, it really exposes your weaknesses. And what I decided to do the first time in that event, that now I keep going forward with, is have it be a leadership training event as opposed to an endurance event. Up until that point in time, it was just an endurance event. People show up, there wasn't a lot of talking, and people would unravel because I didn't put any, leadership effort into it. So, man, I'm committed to what Joe's doing. And what was in the first hour, Joe came up to me at one of the stops. He goes, "You're right. I want to quit. This doesn't make any sense. I want to go do something else." And I said, "What happens if you quit?" And it was a tough conversation. What would he say about himself? What would his wife say who was there? What would his team say? And they decided not to quit as a company. And everybody else got to hear those conversations that we were having. And there's like 20 people there or something.
20,
It was the first time nobody had quit. And
after we had that conversation, we had the conversation about, I said, "Tom, what's the absolute worst position to be in? And the one that will typically quit the fastest?" And you said, "Well, that's the last person in the group. It's the loneliest." And I was like, "Okay, that's the one I'm taking up." And so that's, just the full gamut of emotions and the awareness, because self-awareness is the number one predecessor to success in any area of your life. And just the journey through that, and when it got dark, and bringing up the rear of that whole thing, and it was interesting.
The demons come out in the dark, yeah. But I look forward to seeing you in September, Sean.
And
I'm
me
looking
too,
forward
maybe.
to the event as well. It's going to be fantastic.
And Jody said she's going to be there.
I'm not speaking out loud right now.
I'll keep reminding her of that.
Yeah, I will too. Liz, you're coming. Oh, shoot. You didn't get left out.
All right.
But thank you all for coming on. And, Joe and I appreciate you, and Stacy and I love you. And thank you all for the Facebook Live crew for participating as well. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks.